Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Wind Waker Unflooded. I am your host, Joe Kendrick, and together, I think that's important to get out of the way. We're doing this together. We are making a 3D modeling project. This is a fan art project where we are bringing together. We are creating the world of Hyrule within the art style of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Of course, if you played the Wind Waker, that all the islands of the Great Sea are actually the mountaintops of Hyrule, but we never get to explore Hyrule in the game. All we see is a small portion of it around around Hyrule Castle. But we're told that there's this whole world out there that we never get to explore until now. We are bringing that world to life. This is Wind Waker Unflooded. Thank you all for watching. We are making it together. Even if I'm the one modeling, and of course, thank you to all my collaborators as well. This is a collaboration also with the audience, and I thank you all for listening and paying attention and engaging with the project and giving me, leaving me with your ideas and questions and concerns and feedback. I always appreciate that. And with that all out of the way, let me say it again. Thank you for commenting and continue to comment your feedback and ideas. But with that all out of the way, let's get into today's video. We are working on just a little bit more of the terrain and just figuring out, sometimes I'm making very specific locations and sometimes I'm just sculpting the terrain of the world, and there's so much of that left to do. And I guess I do want to clarify, because there are some people who've advised me that the way I could go about this project is kind of doing it one at a time, doing all of the terrain and then adding paths throughout the world and then adding details like buildings and houses and approaching it with that order in mind. And the only reason I disagree with that is just because a lot of my terrain decisions, there's a recursive creative process where I don't exactly know what I want to do with the terrain until I know what's going to be in the terrain. And I want to make sure that all of my creative decisions are being informed by each other. And so I want to do the details and then do the overworld and that inform the details, and kind of those things kind of bounce back and forth. And so that's why it's I'm not going to just finish all of the terrain and then do the details. That doesn't make sense for my project, as well, just because I don't know what I want until I continue to sculpt it and make it and do the details and the overworld, and it all comes together. And that's the creative process for me, and that's what makes sense for me, at least. I know that doesn't make sense for every project. There's definitely projects, especially if you're being collaborative, and if you already have a strong plan in mind before you make something, it could make sense to really separate the steps out like that. But I think for me, just because this is a creative project where I'm figuring it out as I go, and I think that's part of the appeal of the project. I don't know, I don't want to speak for y'all, but it's sometimes I think about this, I could have planned out a lot ahead of time. I talked about this in a recent video, but usually, maybe not usually, but a lot of the time I am just figuring out things as I go. Sometimes I have a plan and I have a really clear vision, but often it's just I know the gist of what I want to create, but I don't know a lot of the specifics. I'm going to let them sort themselves out. And I know that I'm inspired enough to be there throughout the process and to stay diligent and be there as the process figures itself out, and to continue to whittle away at it, even despite being unsure, and I like that. I like that creative process. And I think that's I do think that helps the engagement on this channel, and not just speaking as a content creator, but speaking as someone that wants to invite y'all into the creative process. If I was just doing videos about, oh, I had an idea in my mind and now I'm executing it, there's no participation there. But because all these videos are, oh, I don't know exactly what I want to do, and I'm thinking about doing it this way. Comment down below what y'all think, though, right? The perspective of how I'm approaching this project creatively is defined by the fact that I don't, always have a clear vision. And I'm figuring out, I want to, with y'all, figure out the needs for this project. But all this to say, today we are working on, if y'all know Dracozu River from Breath of the Wild, it's that dragon-shaped river, and I'm just sculpting a little bit of the terrain around that river. That's what this project is, just kind of figuring out the general shape of that general area. But before we keep going, I think it's time for a short message, so I will talk to all of you again after the break. See you then. If you want to be able to support me as a creator, there are several ways that you can make possible the creation of everything that I do. Become a Patreon member. I post all kinds of exclusive content that you can only see first on Patreon. Stuff like behind-the-scenes content for my filmmaking projects, whether that's in-progress scripts, storyboards, rough cuts, anything for my newest films that aren't posted anywhere else besides Patreon. So become a member. You know, there's a whole range of prices, and you can support me even in small ways. That's super meaningful. Supporting me on Patreon too gets you in the credits list of any film that I release while you're a member. And like I said, even a little goes a long way. You can also collaborate with me now through Fiverr. I offer a range of services that could help bring your project to life. And if you've heard any music in the background of this video, that was my music. So feel free to look me up on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to music. Type in Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Look up Joe Kendrick on Spotify. Supporting me is super meaningful. I don't make any ad revenue on Wind Waker Unflooded. If you see an ad on the video, it's because YouTube is putting ads on the videos. I'm not making any ad revenue from this project. It's completely not monetized for me. So if you want to be able to support me as a creator, any way that you can do that means a lot, and it goes towards the creation of all that I do. So thank you to everyone who's supported me along the way. And we're back. Thank you all for listening. Like I was saying, we are working on Dracozu River. So something I think is cool about this location, I mean, you know, in the original game, right, it's this kind of dragon-shaped river. And I was just trying to figure out, like, well, how do I want to, you know, kind of emphasize that element, right? Because I could really go with those winding, snaking, you know, the shape of the river there. But it's like, I also want, you know, the railroads going through this area as well. And I was kind of thinking, well, maybe it can go on these kind of slithering cliff sides that are slithering back and forth over the river, right? So it's like the river itself is kind of moving through this canyon far below those cliff sides, and you know, it's weaving back and forth, but really it's kind of going between these, kind of moving through these rocks and these cliffs on either side, some of which are, you know, which crisscrosses over the river. It's winding back and forth a couple of times, and I think that that's an interesting shape, and it puts boats in an interesting position where sometimes this, you know, they're under, you know, a rock, a kind of crevice, and sometimes they're exposed to the sky, and there's just an interesting relationship with the geometry there. You know, and I think about this for the project is like, you know, like geometrically, if you were looking at it from a bird's eye view and you kind of cast a ray at any pixel on the map looking down at it, usually it would only hit one thing. I guess what I mean by that just is like vertically there isn't much that's overlapping. Like if I throw a point, like a dart at the map, and it falls from above, you know, it would only hit, you know, one piece of terrain. There's not terrain under it that it would hit to, you know. And I guess I want to do more overhangs and caves, and I think that that'd be interesting as well. I mean, not to the extent that there is maybe in Tears of the Kingdom, right? But adding interest to the shapes, and having things where, you know, there can be cliff sides and there's space underneath it as well. And of course, just within the needs of this project and the scope of this project, I think it makes sense to say, well, obviously I don't want to, where I want to focus first on things that are going to be incredibly exposed. I want to focus first on what's going to be the most visible. And then as the project develops, after what's going to be the most visible is complete, then I can work on the things that are less visible, right? That's why usually I'm not prioritizing interior locations. Sometimes I am, if I feel like it's important to think through them, but usually I'm like, I don't even want to think about the interior of a building. You know, I'm just working on the exterior. It depends, but I mean, it's that kind of process. It's like, I want to focus on the overworld first, the broad strokes, or the things that are outside. So it's like, once those are done, like that's the base requirement for completing the map. But I can always take a step forward and say, oh, now that that's done, well, let me add some interiors or add some more caves and some more interest, some more detail. And I'm excited about that. You know, it's like this project, I think, is going to kind of have phases there. And I've been saying this project's at 45%. It's probably less than that done, you know, just to be honest. But it's like, I think there will be a point before it's done that I reach where I go, oh, most of the world is done. The terrain is done. And now it's time to think, well, if I want to actually go the extra step and add that detail, what can I do? And I'm excited about that. I'm excited to ask those questions and get into that stuff. And, I've enjoyed this project. I'm glad that y'all, I'm always glad that y'all have been there to watch progress and leave comments and share your passion with me. That continues to inspire me to work on the project. And I always appreciate that. So I just always want to thank y'all for watching the channel as we progress into this new year. I'm excited to go into the new year with y'all. I always appreciate y'all as an audience, and I'm excited for y'all to see more of what I make, because I do a lot of short films, and throughout the past couple months, I haven't had much new to show off, separate from this project, but I'm excited to hopefully show off some projects, for y'all as well. Maybe there's stuff that's already come out by the time this video releases. Who knows? Because I pre-record these videos. Who knows? But I'm excited to share more of my creativity with y'all and continue to build this community here. So I don't know. I could get emotional there, but as always, I always thank you all so much for watching. But I think now it's time to wrap up the video. We've done some good work today. Leave a comment down below about what you want to see next in these videos, what you want to see me work on next. If you have any ideas for the world, I appreciate your feedback. So without further ado, I'll let you go.